Hi, today we're going to start looking at solving type 2 radicals. So before we were working on equations that had one radical, we are now going to be looking at equations that have two. During week 6 of instruction, we reviewed solving multi-step equations, and they look like this. A type 2 radical looks very similar to this. The only thing is that both sides have radicals. So a type 2 radical equation is going to have two radicals, and it'll look like this. These are going to be our notes, so I'm going to suggest you write this down. So if you need to pause the video, you can. And I'm also going to write solving type 2 radical equations. Just so I know what these notes are for. Solving type 2 radical equations is exactly like the work you did in week 6, where you had to solve a multi-step equation. The only difference is we have to deal with this radical. We can't do anything with the numbers and the x's because they're trapped in the radical. So our first step is to eliminate the radical. We learned previously that in order to undo something, you need to do the opposite operation. And the opposite of a square root, which you're looking at right now, is to square. And we talked about this before, that a square root and squaring are opposites. And for a cube root, cubing would be the opposite. So in this situation, to undo the square root or the radical, we're going to need to square both sides of the equation. And this is going to allow us to eliminate the radical. So that's what I'm doing here. I am eliminating the radical. When I do this, there is nothing to put in the calculator. All it does is make the square root sign go away. So you're left with 3x plus 8 equals 6x minus 7. So really, there's no math that you have to calculate. You're just making that symbol go away. And now we have a multi-step equation that we did in week 6. So to solve this, we just want to get our x's on the same side. So I'm going to minus 6x on both sides. And when I do that, I've got 3x minus 6x, that's negative 3x, plus 8 equals negative 7. And you're going to notice, actually, we did this problem from these steps during week 6. The only new piece is eliminating the radical. Well, minus 8 on both sides. We have negative 3x equals negative 15. We're going to divide both sides by negative 3. And when we do this, we get x equals 5. So you just solved a type 2 radical equation. If you didn't get all of this down, pause and write it down. Otherwise, we're going to move on to another problem. I'm just going to erase all of this. And I'm going to keep the title. So again, these are your notes for the practice. There's going to be some big ideas practice this week. When you do the big ideas practice, the expectation is you're going to do your work on another piece of paper, and then you'll only need to input your answer in big ideas. So the next problem we're going to look at is going to be the cube root of 7x plus 3, and it's going to equal the cube root of 2x plus 13. This problem is just like the other one. We can't do anything until we eliminate the radical. This is a cube root, which means we are going to need to raise both sides of the radical to the third power. We're going to need to cube both sides in order to eliminate the radical. You cannot move the 7x or the 3 or the 2x or 13 until you eliminate the radical. So we're going to cube both sides. Once we do this, we are left with 7x plus 3 equals 2x plus 13. So I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides of the equal sign. I'm left with 5x plus 3 equals 13. I'm going to minus 3 on both sides, and I am left with 5x equals 10. And my last step is going to be to divide both sides by 5, and I'm left with x equals 2. So we just solved another type 2 radical equation. It doesn't matter that you have the cube root or the square root over your equation. You know how to solve these equations. We just have one extra step we added, where we eliminated the radical. So now you're going to try some big ideas practice to show what you know.